Hello everyone, welcome to StraightA. Dawson here, back on our video here today, and we are talking about postseason probabilities because I realize I fucked up my series and I need something to kind of insert here, as well as just to buy me some time so I can fix up my horrendous schedule and hopefully recover from all that. So cool. So hopefully y'all do enjoy. I do not look the best. I'm going to probably do some of these videos actually without camera for a little bit, but we'll see. You never know. Either way, we're going to jump right into this of showing you what the current playoff picture actually looks like. Who has a shot, who doesn't have a shot, that type of deal. And just recently we actually saw 3 teams total either miss or make the playoffs, and we have 2 more that could miss or make the playoffs, make the playoffs, and then 3 more that could miss the playoffs. So very, very interesting here today. Let's talk about the one team that is in the playoffs guaranteed right now. We have the Kansas City Chiefs, of course, with their win over Las Vegas this last Friday. They have secured their spot in the playoffs no matter what. So the Chiefs Kingdom, congratulations, you're locked in. There's no one stopping you now. Let's go ahead and talk about the 2 teams that are not making the playoffs, and that will be the Raiders and the Giants. The Giants were eliminated technically, I think, last week, maybe with like a very small shot, but then I think one of the Thursday night games killed them. Meanwhile, the Raiders lost to the Chiefs, secured their 0% chance of making the playoffs, so we will not see either of these teams in the playoff picture. From here on out, I'm going to kind of jump around a little bit, make sure I don't miss any teams. When I record this video, usually it's kind of rough to actually remember or look at the screen and make sure I'm locking in this right person. But let's talk about the teams that are basically locked in. 99% club. Basically, one thing has to go right, and it's not even just necessarily them winning. That could be them winning, and it could be a random team losing. They are essentially locked in. It's going to just maybe happen this week or the next week. That's kind of how the 99% club works. That is the Detroit Lions at 99%. And then we got the Buffalo Bills, who are also at 99%. Both these teams could easily be locked in this week with a couple games going their way, either that or them winning. Another team that is a 99% club is the Philadelphia Eagles. All 3 of these teams could easily lock in this week and be fine. So, I mean, unless they lose out and a bunch of different things happen, they are making the playoffs. So it's just a matter of, are they going to make it this week or next week? The Lions, of course, being 11-1. The Bills, of course, being 9-2. The Eagles being 9-2. They've all had great seasons. They have been dominating and doing very, very good things this season so far. Meanwhile, let's talk about some of the other teams that are kind of in the 98 to 95% range. And we'll just kind of go one by one on these ones. Vikings, they are 98% chance to make the playoffs. Let this be known, in the NFC, if they're winning a lot of games up here, so the Vikings are a good example, they have a pretty good shot, mostly because of the NFC South being so far down. A lot of the NFC wildcards actually have a lot of really good shots. Meanwhile, some of the AFC lower card ones, like 50% to 70% range, or 50% to 40%, whatever, they have a little bit weirder of a connection there because there's a little bit more contention with the wild card division of the AFC. So the Vikings 98% chance, of course, with them being 9-2, they had a great start to the season, slowed down a bit, but they're still doing damn well. Meanwhile, let's talk about one of their other division rivals, the Green Bay Packers. They are also at 98%, just slightly less than them technically, 9-3. But again, the NFC wildcard division is so open right now that these 2 teams, even though they're probably not winning the division with the Lions being 11-1, their record at 9-3 and 9-2 have kind of solidified them as a pretty good spot and a pretty good shot. Of course, with these teams at 98 to 95%, again, this is like they'll need a couple weeks to solidify. Again, a couple things have to go their way, but like they're all very, very likely because there's so many different probabilities for them to make the playoffs at this point. They've pretty much solidified it. So 98 to 95 is like, it's not going to happen this week. It might not happen next week, but in the next few weeks they're going to get solidified here damn soon. So next up on the 98% trip is going to be the Baltimore Ravens. Of course, very unfortunate losses here recently, but the Baltimore Ravens have still a very good shot. Again, the AFC picture, when you get to the 8-win club and above, is pretty much open for them. It's really when you get to the 7 wins and below when the AFC wildcard picture kind of gets a little bit more wild. So it's good to see Baltimore 98% chance to make the playoffs right now. Very, very good stuff. Now, that is our last 98%, but we do have a slightly lower percentage at 97% for the Pittsburgh Steelers. Now, you'd think this is kind of weird because the Pittsburgh Steelers do technically have a better record than the Baltimore Ravens, but the Steelers have to play an extra game than the Ravens, and I think there's been a couple tiebreakers that the Steelers have technically don't win if the Ravens were to kind of split the series. So the Steelers have a slightly less chance to make the playoffs, but either way, they still have a damn good shot, and there's not much need to worry there for them. And I believe that is our last of the 95 to 90, the 98 to 95% chance category. Making sure, because I'm reading through this, I'm like, I'm probably gonna miss somebody eventually. So we may kind of jump around at this point. 89% chance looks to be our highest next one. That is the Houston Texans. Despite them not doing great, and they lost 5 games so far. 89% chance is not a overarching definitely going to make the playoffs category. At this point, they are wide open. We have 8 teams that are essentially pretty locked in to making the playoffs, and then 89% and below right now is actually not as good of a shot as you'd hope. The AFC South is getting closer and closer by the day. If the Houston Texans continue the momentum the way they are going to lose more games. And the Colts are just 2 wins behind them, and that's just for a division title. That's not even mentioning if they lose that, they could easily kind of get caught up by the Dolphins, even the Bengals in some cases. The Houston Texans definitely don't have a easy shot to the playoffs so far. They do have to still do a lot of things right and still win their games, but if they win out, they should be all right for the most part. So they don't have a lot to worry about, but they still got to actually kind of button down a little bit. Same with the Los Angeles Chargers. Again, this is a team that has been doing very damn good things, but they still have they have an easy schedule ahead of them, so they have a pretty good shot at it. And again, the AFC and the wildcard picture is a little bit easier than the NFC. But they have an 87% chance. But there's some teams catching up on them. Again, the Dolphins, the Colts, and the Broncos are all kind of that wild card picture. And they're only a couple wins behind the Chargers. And the Chargers still have a couple tough games where if they drop some losses, they could easily see the percentage going down a little bit more. As for the 75% club, I do not see anybody else in this category, so we should be good to move on. But these two are kind of in that, like, they have a good advantage over everybody, but it's not the cleanest picture in the world. And you know what? I like lying because the Atlanta Falcons are at 78%. They are the current leader in their division. But the NFC South, again, wide open. It's pretty easily, they could easily lose that 78% to the New Orleans Saints, to the Tampa Bay Bucks, which is the more likely option. Even the Panthers are still currently in the race. So the Atlanta Falcons got to button down, actually win some games, and showcase to everybody why they're, the Atlanta Falcons and why they had brought Kirk Cousins in. So they got to button down on this. But Atlanta Falcons still have a very good shot, division leader right now, and even then, they might be able to make an NFC wildcard push, but it's going to be very unlikely with the NFC North taking over so many of the spots already. We'll see, though. We will see. The next highest percentage chance goes into our category, 74 to 50% chance. The Denver Broncos. Again, very big, like, Cinderella story for them this year. They have climbed, done everything they can to make sure they stay in the picture. They've gone down to 50%. They've gone up to 75. They are kind of in that little middle ground of 73% right now. AFC, again, the wildcard picture is very open. They have 2 wins above the next couple teams in the AFC, so they have a good advantage. And this is kind of where the big drop-off we'll see from the AFC, because we have the Houston Texans, the Chargers, the Broncos, the Steelers, the Ravens, the Bills, and the Chiefs, all representing the AFC currently. But there are some other people. Again, the Dolphins, the Colts, all of them kind of only 2 wins behind. There's a little bit of a gap, but in the next couple of weeks, if a couple of these teams, especially Houston Texans, the Chargers, and the Broncos, start dropping some losses, they might actually be caught up. So we need to very much keep in mind that chance for the AFC wildcard playoff picture. Next up, I'm kind of looking around. 56% looks to be the next 2 highest percentages, with the Arizona Cardinals and the the Washington Commanders. I definitely read that wrong. Nice. So, Washington Commanders and the Arizona Cardinals, boom, bada, bing, at 56% right here. So, we got to put them actually in this category, my bad. Arizona Cardinals, Washington Commanders, both very similar stories, honestly. So, it doesn't surprise me that they're here. The Washington Commanders currently 7-5, the Cardinals 6-5. But again, with their divisions the way they are, The Cardinals do have a slightly better chance because the Commanders have the Eagles, so they don't have an avenue there, really. They're 2 wins behind the Eagles, but still. The Cardinals, I think they're leading the division currently. The Rams may be right behind them somewhere down the line, 5-6, and then the 49ers are about 5-6, I believe. So that division's wide open. Seahawks actually may be up there too. So you have 6-5. Surprisingly enough, the Cardinals and the Seahawks are right there, 6-5. The Cardinals have a couple tiebreakers on them currently, so we'll see. But Cardinals, 56%. They've been playing pretty well. They've had a couple ups and down games, but they have done really good things. The Washington Commanders, same case here. The defense has been playing out of their mind. Jaden Daniels is impressed across the board. Very good stuff coming from Washington, so very good to see at the very least. Going into the next one, pretty good drop off here, I think, at this point. We see a couple teams kind of scrambling a little bit. 42% from the Tampa Bay Bucks is up next. That's from what I see, at least. We'll kind of, again, backtrack when we need to. Tampa Bay Buccaneers, again, they're so unlikely to win their division right now because, again, the Falcons have a win over them, and they're ahead in a win. So Tampa Bay Bucks, actually the first team we're going to talk about here that do not control their destiny. Every team from Chiefs to Commanders, if they win out, they make the playoffs, no matter what. Tampa Bay Bucks, if they could win out and not make the playoffs currently. Now, that's very unlikely because there's a couple things that, need to go in favor, only a couple things that need to go in favor for them to get that win out percentage back, but they still don't necessarily control their destiny. 42%, not a great chance. Their best chance right now is to knock the Atlanta Falcons off the NFC South division leader. So that's the best shot they got, so we'll see how it goes. Next up, we do have some 32% chances in the Seattle Seahawks and the Indianapolis Colts. Seattle Seahawks, again, in a very easy division. That's kind of their main avenue. It doesn't look like they're going to make the NFC South or NFC wildcard picture. And the Indianapolis Colts, same case there. Honestly, their best shot's probably knocking off the Colts or the Texans because, again, they get to play the Texans again. And they don't think they do play the Broncos, so they could actually make the wildcard picture pretty well. So knocking off these lower AFC teams is kind of the Colts' priority, but they are the most likely chance that's outside the bubble currently. So good for the Indianapolis Colts in that regard. And then, of course, Seattle Seahawks, again, pretty good, but been up and down throughout the whole season. So we got to keep in mind that one, of course. Next up, we have a big drop-off at that point to 19% for the Los Angeles Rams. So keep in mind, so we talked about Seattle Seahawks. They control their destiny, and the Indianapolis Colts currently do not control their destiny. Now, a team that also still controls their destiny, even being this far low, is the Los Angeles Rams. If the Rams win out with their schedule the way it is, they will make the playoffs. 19% chance, not great, but their team has been on fire on offense. The defense has been playing out of their mind. The Los Angeles Rams very much could still solidify a spot. It's still, again, unlikely, but they could definitely solidify a spot at this point. And at this point, we're going to be talking about a lot of teams that are very much in the red. It means they will not be controlling their destiny. A lot of things have to go right for them, and they have to pretty much win out to give themselves the best shot. Of the ones left, there's a 13% chance for the Miami Dolphins to make the playoffs. Again, with their record being 5-7 right now, they're in as good of a spot as the Colts, at least in terms of positioning. But there's a lot of things that still have to go right. Their division's tough, and a lot of the AFC wildcard, again, have to still lose. So, and that's again now counting the Colts into the picture, because the Colts, I think, have a couple tiebreakers on them. So the Miami Dolphins have to have a lot of things go right, but their offense have been showcasing that they can definitely make the playoffs. They just have to keep winning, and they have to keep up the momentum going forward. Now, every other team from now on is in the one single digit percentage chance to make the playoffs. So we have 9% chance leading the charge here with the San Francisco 49ers. It's crazy to put the 49ers this low. They are 5-6 in a division that's very much still very competing. Anybody can compete for that division. That's going to be their main avenue right now. Again, tiebreakers against them, schedules against them. 49ers have to play out of their mind to actually make the playoffs, and that's actually insane to me. I think they still will, but 9% chance means they have to win out. A lot of things have to go right. They have to beat their division rivals. They have to make sure the division rivals lose. That's their avenue for the playoffs. They have to hope for the best in this regard. Next up, we have the Dallas Cowboys at 6%. Putting both these teams in the same category right here is absolutely insane right now. Dallas Cowboys, a lot of things are going wrong. Their chances are pretty much closed, but I mean, they still have a shot. 6%. A lot of things have to go in favor for them. Kind of straight to the point there. The New Orleans Saints at 4% or 5%. Sorry. Again, their main avenue is to beat the Bucks, to beat the Falcons, and that's how they'll make the playoffs. So 5% chance, not a great shot, but they could theoretically give themselves a much better shot by beating their division rivals here in the next few weeks. So, shout out to the Saints there. So that's going to be their main avenue, and it's still very much for the taking for them. They're 4-7, right? Yeah. So they still have a little bit of a shot. Next up are the Tennessee Titans and the Cincinnati Bengals, both with a 4% chance of making the playoffs. Boom and boom. Both these teams in this percentage for very different reasons. The Tennessee Titans, they have just sucked all year, but they've gotten a couple wins, and they're in a not great division, so that they have a good avenue there. Cincinnati Bengals, they're in a great division, have played super well, have gotten very unfortunate losses, 4% shot. It's really, again, a lot of things have to go right. Miami, Colts, and one of the three teams of Texans, Chargers, and Broncos all have to basically go and plummet down. The Bengals do play a couple of these teams, so they very much could still make that percentage chance go up, but 4% is definitely not in their favor at this current point. But with 6 weeks still left, it's really hard to kind of say that 4% is like the solidified. All these percentages are very much still going to change over the next couple of weeks. It's really when you get down to the last 4 to 3 weeks when the percentage chances start narrowing down a lot more. Anyway, the last one at pretty much 1% on the dot, the Jacksonville Jaguars. Again, mostly this is because of their division being so open. So again, if theoretically the Texans lose out, the Jaguars could be in the conversation to still make the playoffs. But they could still lose the playoffs. So funny enough, I think every team at this point could lose the playoffs in this week or the next week. So everybody in the 1% category, pretty much either if they lose or if a certain amount of teams win in a combination, they will lose the playoffs. Now, granted, I think that's untrue for a couple of these teams. I don't know all of them on top of my head, but we'll talk about them in a second. The Chicago Bears are a team that's not going to necessarily be knocked out of the playoffs this week. Again, with the NFC wildcard still being in the picture. I think there is a grand combination if all these teams actually win or lose. But with them being 4-8, they are the team I think that's safe from that category, at least for one more week. The Cleveland Browns, though, they are in danger of getting knocked out of the playoffs this week. I know that. The New York Jets, same case to them. The Carolina Panthers, same case to them. And then the team with the lowest percentage chance to make the playoffs, the New England Patriots. I believe every team outside of the Chicago Bears on this list could be knocked out of the playoffs this week. Maybe there's a combination where a couple of these teams don't actually get knocked out, but they are virtually in the next 2 weeks. If for one, they don't win, and two, if a combination of their division rivals and opponents actually end up winning, they are all knocked out. Jacksonville, very unfortunate. A lot of hype going into them this season, and it's just not panned out. Chicago, same case there. I mean, being 4-8 is not horrible, but it could be way better when you had the number 1 pick of the draft for a new quarterback of the future. Browns, Deshaun Watson really ruined your chances. Jameis Winston brought us back some hope, but at this point, too little, too late. Aaron Rodgers, man, you just have cooked this whole franchise even more. Carolina, a little bit of a breath of fresh air here recently with a couple wins, but that Chiefs loss really hurt them. And then finally, New England Patriots. Division's really tough, and they've had a really tough couple games. So New England's at 1%. So this is like the current layout of the playoff picture. Currently, we have Kansas City, the Bills, the Ravens, the Steelers, the Texans, the Chargers, and the Broncos, all representing the AFC. Meanwhile, you have the Lions, the Eagles, the Packers, the Vikings, the Falcons, the Cardinals, and the Commanders, all representing the NFC. The people really still in the playoff picture are the Tampa Bay Bucks, the Seattle Seahawks, and the Rams from the NFC side, the Colts and the Dolphins from the AFC side. You can kind of throw in the 49ers and the Saints, since I believe with their divisions, the way they're set up, are pretty much still in the open for that, but pretty much every other team is pretty much out of it. The 1%ers are virtually out of it. They're just waiting for a certain amount of combination of things to happen for them to get knocked out. Tennessee, they're not really a serious conversation. The Cincinnati Bengals, with their team quality, they could be in the conversation. The Cowboys, pretty much out of the conversation at this point with the trajectory of their team. So a couple of very interesting things here on the bottom tier here, and now it's just really a matter of who's going to lock in first and actually end up making it. Hope you all did enjoy the video. I should have power rankings for both week 12 and week 13 coming out later today. I'll come up with another video to help kind of subsidize that fact that I did technically skip a power rankings video. I didn't even realize somewhere along the line I must have mistracked the titles, so I'm just probably going to name this one 12 and 13. But it's either way, it's fine. I've still kept track of it. I guess I forgot to make a video on one of them. So hopefully y'all do enjoy. I'll see y'all next video.